Hi there, it's David Ayer again, and I am talking to you about Luke chapter 1. And we've gotten to the point in the narrative where we are down to verse 8. Now, just kind of a background before I break into this. The section we're going to consider next is the birth of John the Baptist being foretold by the angel. And basically verses 8 through 22 represent one time frame. This is a little bit of an extended period where we're getting some dialogue and stuff between the angel and Zechariah, and also the events that are kind of happening around it. So it's giving us the setting that it's in. But this is a few moments on probably some morning. It is unclear scripturally when the time of the incense offering was, but most of the activity in the temple was in the morning. So it's safe to assume that we're probably talking about the morning sometime, probably around 9 o'clock. In any case, this is concluded in verse 23 when it closes basically Zechariah's time of ministry and his return home. So basically I'm going to break up this first paragraph, which is what I told you to consider as a unit of thought. I'm going to break this one up into two separate sections. The reason is just because of the length and because it deals with two different real parts, really. So there's the setting is the first part, and the second part is going to be the conversation with Gabriel. So the conversation between Zechariah and Gabriel. And so let's go, we're going to go into the setting first. So we're going to go verses 8 through 10 here. So here's what it says in the NIV. Once when Zechariah's division was on duty, and he was serving as a priest before God, he was chosen by lot, according to the custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple into the temple of the Lord, and burn incense. And when the time of the burning of incense came, all the assembled worshippers were praying outside. So this is how this all happens. He's chosen by lot to go and burn incense. Now, what's important here is that the altar of incense was right in front of the veil. So if you know anything about kind of the Old Testament method of worship, we have the tabernacle, which later becomes the temple, which the temple was just a set structure where the tabernacle was mobile. It was basically a tent. But you have this place called the Holy Place, and then you have the Holy of Holies. It's two separate elements within this building of the temple. And so you have, in the Holy Place, you have the table of showbread, which was bread that the priest could eat. There was the candlestick over here, and that was to shine light into the holy place. And then there was the altar of incense. So it was kind of like these two are here against the wall, and the altar of incense is up against the veil. Basically, it's as close to the veil as it can get. The veil is the division part to the Holy of Holies. And the Holy of Holies is what has the Ark of the Covenant. Now, if you don't know what the Ark of the Covenant is, if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, that is a story where the Nazis are searching for the lost Ark of Moses, the Ark of the Covenant. And because they're looking as like a magical talisman that's going to give them victory during World War II, in the real world, the Ark did work to bring victory to Israel and so on. But the more important use of the Ark was to, once a year, make a sacrifice and cleanse Israel of their sins. And once a year, this veil that separated the ark from the rest of the people, basically, and from the holy place. So there's the holy place, then there's the Holy of Holies where the ark is. It's separated by a veil. And once a year, one time a year, the high priest would go in behind the veil with sacrifice, with the blood of a sacrifice, and he would sprinkle it 7 times on the mercy seat, and that would pay for Israel's sin. So the closest anyone could ever get to the ark, or which had the presence of God on it. That's what the cloud of glory that led Israel through the wilderness. After they went into promised land, there was a remnant of the cloud between the angels on the mercy seat. So God's literal presence is behind the veil. The closest you could get to the veil, the closest you could get to the presence of God was the veil, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so to be chosen to burn incense was to be chosen to be as close to God as anyone could be, except for the high priest, once a year. This is a big deal, to be chosen to go there. And what's cool is that also the altar of incense, we know that that is symbolic of prayer. We find that in the book of Revelation a couple different times. It talks about that the incense is the prayers of the saints. And so there's kind of a dual imagery here, where Zechariah is being called to minister as close to the Lord as possible. And he's being called to offer incense, which is symbolic of the prayers of God's people. And at the same time, when those incense prayers are being lifted by the burning of the incense, it says at the time of incense, all the worshipers had assembled and they're praying outside. You see, this idea of incense and prayer evidently goes all the way back to the time of Jesus. And they understand that when there's offering of the incense, it's something connected with prayer. And so they're praying, hoping that maybe their prayers get linked up to that incense and maybe answers come more quickly or whatever their hope is. We know these things. Now, it's important to note the contrast between Zechariah and the people, because they are praying outside, but he has prayed and now he's inside. And it takes all of this moment, this entire time, brings us to this point where Zechariah is going to be offering incense. He's going to be offering the offering of incense to the Lord, and God